Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, partnering with donors from all walks of life to improve southeastern Virginia through grants, scholarships, and leadership initiatives. Learn more at hamptonroadscf.org.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Hamley. I remember it like it was yesterday. On July 11th of 2011, we debuted Another View on the radio. We took a 30-minute television program and turned it into an hour-long call-in radio talk show. Now, I admit, I was nervous. Many were excited about the new program. There were those who doomed it before we even got started. But our listeners said, we want to know more about the African American community, and the momentum began. Today is the beginning of our 14th year on the radio, and we will celebrate right after this news from NPR and WHRO News.
Discussing today's topics from an African American perspective, this is Another View.
Well, maybe not a romantic anniversary, but it is our anniversary. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Hamley. On behalf of the Another View crew, we say thank you, our listening audience, because without you, today's anniversary would not be possible. Your calls, letters, social media messages, comments when you stop us on the street have been so heartwarming and insightful as you describe Another View and what it means to you on a personal level. Today begins 14 years on the radio, and what better way to start than by hanging out with the folks who were our first guests in 2011, the original Another View Roundtable. Roger Chesley is a contributing columnist for the Virginia Mercury and a freelance writer. He's a former columnist and editorial writer for the Virginian Pilot and the Daily Press. Hey, Roger.
Hey, Barbara.
How are you?
I'm still hanging in. Thanks for inviting me back.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you. Carol Pretlow is an associate professor of political science at Norfolk State University and is currently working on continued research related to experiences in her home community of Smithfield, Virginia, which is called Notes of a Country Girl. Hey, country girl.
Hey.
We're so glad to have you back, Carol.
I'm glad to be back.
And joining us by phone is Dr. Wil LaVeist. He's a former columnist and talk show radio host in Hampton Roads and now educator, author, and media consultant based in Philadelphia. Hey, Wil.
Hey, Barbara, good to be back with the OGs. Wish I was there with you.
Yeah, exactly. We wish you were here with us, too. And, of course, we invited Bill Thomas, our resident conservative community activist, and he said he would be here, but we haven't heard from him. So, Bill, if you're listening, please call in so we can get you on. And we hope and pray that everything is okay, because it is unlike him not to at least let us know if he can't be here. So we're praying that everything is all right on your end. So before we get into our topics roundtable, I just want to take a minute, let you guys kind of talk about the show, talk about the fact that you have been such a staple on this show with us over the years. Roger, you got anything you want to add or say?
You know, Barbara had to convince me, listeners out there, to come on the show. She bugged me.
I did.
And, you know, she was smart to get the boss, my wife, Michelle, to say, I don't understand why you don't want to do the show. You have a valuable, perspective to give. And I have enjoyed this space. I mean, people come up to me at church and say, hey, I heard you on Friday. They seem to think that we were on every week or every other week. I was like, it's only once a month that we're on. So I guess we leave an impression with people, but I have enjoyed this space. I've enjoyed giving my viewpoints on several issues and trying to help craft some of the issues that we actually cover on a monthly basis, or was a monthly basis back then anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, thank you for inviting me.
Thank
Barbara.
you.
I really appreciate it.
And I appreciate Michelle, because she really was in my corner.
Don't we all? Don't we all?
Carol, anything you want to add?
Oh, wow. Another view meant so much to me because I was just starting in Norfolk State, and I was starting a new program there for pre-law students. And my feeling was, they don't listen to the radio. They're not going to listen to it. But it was amazing, the things that I would say in class. They would say, yeah, but on the radio you said so and so and so. Well, why did you say that? It has been amazing experience.
That's great. And Dr. LaVeist.
Yeah, I mean, I echo what has been said. I mean, I consider it an honor to have been able to participate as an OG, as an original. And I think the audience is really missing something that you're not on TV.
Yeah.
You're missing your pretty face and all that energy. And, for me, I grew up in New York City watching a show called Like It Is. Gil Noble was a pioneer.
Yeah.
And that was something that really inspired me. I didn't know it at the time, but between he and Bill McCrary and Earl
Graves?
Earl Graves. And, these guys are, really inspired me to go into journalism. So to be on the show and to do that kind of work, had that kind of impact in the community that was impactful for me as a kid growing up, was an honor. So I think.
Well, I appreciate all of you all, and you really did help to put another view on the map, because people just go, oh my gosh, I can't believe. So let's have some of those I can't believe moments. Let's start with President Joe Biden, who is holding a press conference this evening in an attempt to overcome the perception that he's unfit for another term. Now, Democratic members of Congress, senators, and even a movie star, George Clooney, have called for him to leave the race. What say you, Roger?
Barbara, thank you for throwing it to me. I want all the listeners to know that today I am an angry man. Not an angry black man. I'm an angry man. I'm angry at President Biden. His selfishness and hubris have gotten us to this place. It is clear that he is no longer fit to be running that office, and it also makes me wonder who is really pulling the strings behind him right now, given his mental troubles. I am angry at his aides and enablers. They knew there was a problem. If you go back and look at the number of headlines over the past couple of years saying that he's had some of the fewest press conferences and one-on-one interviews, they knew he was having trouble. He should have known 2 years ago, okay, this is going to be my only term. For the good of this country and for the good of my party, I am not going to run again. I am angry at the New York Times for focusing so much attention on Biden's problems and at the same time being almost mute in recent months on the litany of problems with his opponent, Donald Trump. They called for Biden after that horrible debate performance by him for him to get out of the race. It took him until today to delineate the shortcomings that the Republican standard bearer has. I'm angry at low and middle income whites voters who are wedded to Trump. They have elevated racism and supremacy over the good of the country. I'm angry at the Supreme Court and GOP elected officials for enabling a known menace to democracy and the rule of the law to stay in this position. And lastly, I am angry at Donald Trump, who's even more selfish than Biden. He wants to stay out of prison, and that is a big part of why he ran again this time. And he is a corrupt narcissist that is not good for this country. This is a terrible time for our country, when the two main standard bearers are both so compromised And it's just not a good time for Americans right now.
Wow. Will,
I had to get that off my chest.
I got you. I'm glad. I can tell. Absolutely. Absolutely. But, you delineate so many different aspects of the problem. Will?
Well, I guess Roger's angry, huh?
Thank you, my brother.
I wouldn't say that I am angry like Roger. I look at it this way. The only one is really qualified to have an opinion or to give an assessment of Joe Biden's mental capacity is a professional. And what the White House should do and what he should be able to show is that he does have the mental capacity to do the job.
But has he done that, Will?
I don't know. I don't know because, for example, when I saw the State of the Union address, and I know that was done. He had a teleprompter and all that. Mm-hmm. But I thought that he did quite well, and the reports was that he did quite well. Yes, the debate was horrible, right? Hard to watch, right? But guess what? Trump was horrible and hard to watch in that debate. If you really go back to what is a debate supposed to be about, and it was horrible. If anybody thinks that Trump won that debate, they're out of their minds as well. And the fact that the reporters, again, Roger and I, all of us have been in that role of doing those kinds of debates. I know what the rules may have been, but when you think about what a debate is supposed to be, where you're making statements and you're backing it up with facts and truth, and you're being that wasn't a successful debate. That was horrible on both sides. So I would be questioning Trump's mental capacity and ability to run this country as well. And I think for me, if I'm angry at anything, it's really the press of failing to be able to point this out and say, wait a minute, this debate was horrible on both sides. And if Biden, whether or not he's able to do the next 4 years in his role, let's get a professional opinion and assessment of that as opposed to a lot of personal, emotional opinions that are happening. Because that's what I see going on there. Let's get in a professional assessment of both candidates because they were both horrible.
Well, I agree with you totally because the night of the debate, I was just astounded. And I said, well, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm missing something. And then when I look back at Biden, I said, there's a problem here. And maybe his staff, maybe his doctors or whatever, maybe they will come up later and tell us.
His doctors have come out. His main physician came out and said that there were no neurological, he has not had any neurological exams. There was nothing going on, even though this neurologist had been at the White House 12 times over the past several months or whatever. They're claiming that he is perfectly cognizant.
But I expected a report sooner, maybe an hour or two later, to say, look, he is having a problem here, or he's had, and we'll get back to you later. On the other hand, I don't know what Trump's excuse is. He's always been, I can't say the word.
No.
It begins with A. He has always been that way. And so nobody questions his mental capabilities.
But we also know from when Trump was in office and his doctor said he was the fittest, healthiest, president whatsoever. So we know that there are sometimes not full truthfulness coming out from the White House physician. And I think it is an indication when Biden had done so few press conferences, had done so few unscripted events. You don't do that unless you know there's a problem with the guy sitting in the big chair. And that said as much as anything. As early as 2021, there were stories coming out saying how few press conferences he had done, even at that point in his presidency compared to other presidents. So that
well,
means
that may be true. That may be true, Roger. But I mean, you could be right. But nothing is going to clear that up more than an independent, professional opinion.
That's true.
And why do you think they haven't done that?
And don't you think? And don't you think?
That's what the press. And that's what the press should be pushing for, rather than just chasing the story, chasing the next comment, chasing this lawmaker down the hall. That's what they should be pushing for. There should be an independent, professional assessment of both of these candidates, because you listen to Trump, he's rambling all
and he
over
always
the place.
has.
And what makes you think that either one of those candidates are going to allow that?
Yeah. Well,
that's what the press should be in the people, because these candidates belong to the people. That office belongs to the people. So the people should be pressing for that kind of an assessment. And the other thing they should be saying is stop saying that Biden is too old. It's not about whether he is old or not. It's about whether he has the mental capacity to do this role, because there are people who are pushing 90 years old that are sharp and able to have the mental acuity to make these decisions. So stop saying he's too old.
And there are people a lot younger who can be in worse shape, too.
Yeah,
that's right.
True.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
So let me ask you this, though, because there's a whole lot of discussion about Biden saying that the elite, the senators, the Congress people, Clooney, those type folks are the ones who are calling for him to step down, and that the real people, as you were talking about, Will, the people, particularly African Americans and the working class, labor unions and so forth, that they are going to be the ones who are going to save his campaign, and they are the ones who have not stood up and said he needs to step down. Is that again? Are we on their backs again?
I don't know that that's a true statement. I mean, that's a politically comfortable place for Biden to be. I'm not sure there's been a poll that said, if you talk to everybody, do they want him to come out? I mean, do they want him to drop out? And that's the type of poll that I think would be probably, if you just polled Democrats.
Well, they claimed that right after the debate that there was very little movement in terms of the polls, but Biden was still losing.
And the other problem is, they might not vote for Trump, but they might not come to the polls. And that means that local and state Democrats would be, hurt by a lower turnout at the polls. Too. And there's so many contests where, the margin of the difference is not that many votes. So that's, I think, what is factoring into a lot of Democratic office holders right now.
Yeah. Well, in the last presidential election, it was the black community that tipped the scales and got Biden and Harris in office. Is that what you think is going to happen this time around?
Well, I would think so. I think the black community, again, if polls are showing anything, or comments that you see when you are talking with regular folks who will vote, they recognize that the alternative is unacceptable, And I think that the black community, as you see the position of the Black Caucus, is based on what kind of messaging they're getting from constituents in the community, people who are likely to vote. So I think watch where the Black Caucus is would tell you something about where they think black voters are.
Well,
Carol?
I have a question. What about Kamala Harris? What about, she is appealable. She is articulate. She's educated. So why not promote her and give some time to?
Okay, let me ask the question then, because
I'm sorry.
No. But the question is, can Kamala Harris beat Donald Trump? That's what the question is. Is America ready for a black female president over Donald Trump?
They weren't ready for a white female president over Donald Trump.
Yeah,
so I don't. And I know that Hillary Clinton had her negatives just because of her last name, but you saw Barack Obama win, and I think there is the backlash is what got Donald Trump into office in the first place. And so I think it would be very difficult for Kamala Harris, and she does not she does not have the profile that someone like Michelle Obama has, that some congresswomen, black congresswomen have, and I think it's going to be very difficult for my fellow Bison to win.
To be able to win.
Yeah. On the other hand, she does have the advantage of being able to take on Trump. She can knock him to the curb.
You think so?
I think.
You mean in terms of debate, in a debate situation?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think? Who else should be running? I mean, because we keep talking about Biden dropping out, but I don't hear a lot of conversation about who's next.
Next, yeah.
Well,
yeah, I mean, I don't have a good answer for that. I mean, when Kamala ran, and then also you if you're thinking about black candidates, remember Cory Booker ran as well.
Oh yeah, that's true.
They were not embraced.
Right.
I mean, black community or voters or whoever had an opportunity to embrace Kamala then and did not. And so I don't know what the answer to that is. I do remember, and I covered the Obama election. And to be honest, all the time that I was covering it, I didn't think that America was going to vote him in. But then that perfect storm of an economy that crashed and people feeling, hey, we need something new. We need something different. Maybe this guy will come in and do what he says he's going to do about hope and all of those things. I think that really helped to get him over the top. But I think Roger's point is very well taken, that Hillary Clinton certainly had all of the qualifications and all of the things, and it was the white female vote that did not come out and support her. So that was the key vote that was not there.
And
there's a lot.
And don't forget that in the 2008 election where Obama won, there was this I think some discomfort with McCain when he picked somebody like Sarah Palin as his running mate.
Right.
People were wondering, what are you doing? And somebody who folks were very uncomfortable with if he were to ascend to the presidency. So I think that also played in Obama's favor.
So what do you guys think is going to be the outcome of the Democratic convention? I mean, in other words, is this going to be another Chicago, in terms of mass
hopefully
chaos?
It won't be rioting on the streets, though.
well,
I don't know about all that.
That's 1968 for you youngsters out there. Don't remember that one. I was only a child then, but I do remember
I do remember that too.
I wasn't a child. I was there.
I'm too young. I don't remember anything about that.
Yeah, right, Will.
Stop it, y'all.
No, but in all seriousness, I mean, because it would seem that the status quo would be to promote the vice president into that role if President Biden backs out. But who else do you think they're talking about? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I don't have any good answers, but when you do mention 1968, it was a time just a few months after Bobby Kennedy had been assassinated. Mm-hmm. He was not necessarily going to win the nomination, but it did put a lot of stress on Humphrey and McGovern. I think it was Humphrey and McCarthy who were the standard bearers that were left after that time. And Humphrey lost, very narrowly that election to Richard Nixon.
Yeah.
So, we're talking about somebody who was vice president and was going against someone who we now know was would become knee-deep in Watergate in a few years after that. So some of the parallels do seem to be very disconcerting, let's just say.
Okay, we're going to go on to another topic. Oh, go ahead, Will. You can finish up the last topic.
I was just going to say that, like, in a lot of ways, this is like uncharted waters in a lot of ways, because even back then, you had Nixon and all of his faults was still a relatively rational candidate, an alternative, someone who has been in government and understood what was going on. I mean, to me, if anybody listens to Trump's stump speeches and what he's saying, really, this is incredible. It's like we can't do better than this?
Right.
It's really insane what he's saying.
We're going to talk about him in just a second, but I want to go to the phone line real quickly. Nathan Richardson joins us. Nathan, you're in Laurel, Maryland?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, you got people in faraway places now, but
I see.
PG County.
Nathan, I was just with Nathan the other day.
Yeah, we were just at Valley Forge. Dr. LaVeist and his wife and I appreciate you all coming out to see
Absolutely.
President Douglas. Yeah, I just wanted to say that this space you created on the radio, it extends far and wide and it's growing. My relationship with Dr. LaVeist, been in Professor Pretlow's classroom. That's what the show does. And regardless whether I'm in Suffolk or Laurel, Maryland, I'm going to be in my car listening on the radio or whatever and calling in, And I'm going to be challenging people because when you're talking to citizens across the country and they're claiming to be, pro-black or know the black issues, I'm saying, so when is the last time you read a black newspaper or listened to a black radio station? Because all you're doing is preaching, somebody else's version of what the facts are. So the black press is what we need to keep our people informed. So, and you're doing that.
Thank you, Nathan. We so appreciate you.
Yeah.
Nathan is Frederick Douglass, and he has been on our show, and we are really happy to hear from you. Thanks so much for the call. And if you're just joining us, we're talking about current events with the original Another View Roundtable pundits, contributing columnist for the Virginia Mercury and freelance writer Roger Chesley, political science professor at NSU Carol Pretlow, and Dr. Wil LaVeist, educator, author, and media consultant, who is now based in Philadelphia. And again, we did invite Bill Thomas to join us, and we are really concerned at this point because we have not heard from him. So we are hoping that everything is okay. He had said he was going to join us, and we haven't been able to reach him. So, Bill, if you're listening, call us. If not, let us know that you're doing okay. So that's very, very important. All right. So in the meantime, with all the Biden stuff happening, Donald Trump has challenged Biden to another debate and a game of golf, while at the same time trying to distance himself from Project 2025, the conservative plan to transform the American government. Project 2025 is a 900-page document created by the Heritage Foundation as the lead organization that would expand presidential powers and overhaul the federal workforce, replacing workers with partisan loyalists. Now, this thing would also, let me just read a couple of the things that it's doing. It would steeply reduce Medicaid funding and remove medication abortion drugs from the market. It would shutter LGBTQ plus health programs and have the government declare that heterosexual couples are the superior family structure. The term sexual orientation would be forbidden from federal legislation. It would terminate the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals Program, or DACA, that allows dreamers to stay in the United States and would lower legal immigration limits as well. It would bring the FBI under direct control of the president and eliminate the education department. It would stop expansion of the electrical grid for wind and solar energy. It would make pornography illegal and imprison people who make it. It would get rid of DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion in any of federal law, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think? And why is so... First of all, how is this going to impact African Americans, and should we be concerned, or is this just more talk? Go ahead, Carol. We can start with you this time.
Thank you for starting with me, because I thought it was going to be an easy read, and I went to Norfolk State Library. I mean, I read case briefs all the time. How complicated could it be? So I went to Norfolk State Library, and I thought, maybe a couple pages, 20, 30 pages. And the librarian there, thank you, said, I'll run it off for you. And I thought, well, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 2 hours later, we're still working on it. And even today, bringing it I didn't bring it all.
Yeah, I see.
Now, last night, I was like, okay, I'll settle down with my popcorn and I'll read it.
You need a few buckets.
I need a few buckets. And then I was like, if they had been in one of my classes, they would have gotten an F, because they have all of these, what they call pillars, that they want to examine. And it's just more rhetoric, more failure to define specifically what they're going to do, and a whole lot of generalities. And yet they're getting by with it, and people are saying, oh, well, it was wonderful they took the time to do this. No, it was not. It's pathetic, it's embarrassing, and it made me angry, frankly.
Well, Will, what do you think? I mean, because do you look at it as being a dangerous document, or is it just words on the paper?
Oh, absolutely, it's a dangerous document, and I think that why Trump is distancing himself from it is because his team is looking at the numbers. You know, any election, anybody who's covered an election knows that it's very much a numbers game. You know, you have to look at where you're going to get your votes from and how many votes do you need. And so there are more Democrats in this country than there are Republicans. If all the Democrats come out and get inspired like they did for Obama, chances are Democrats are going to win up and down the slate, right? So you can't afford to lose any Republican or any independent crossover votes if you're on the Republican side. So this kind of agenda is a turnoff for many, is going to be a turnoff for many potentially who would vote Republican, because they're going to see it as, yeah, this is just way too extreme for me. Because there are a lot of people on the Republican side who are very sensible, who are looking at this country and are patriots and do want to live in a country where, you know, we can enjoy freedom and different people can have an opportunity for life, liberty, and happiness. There are plenty of Republicans like that. And this kind of extreme rhetoric, extreme position and outlook on the country, you know, that's not going to work for them. So he has to distance himself if he's going to get all the Republicans that he can on board, and then potentially get some who will cross over from the independent side or maybe even Democratic side.
But is he even, and Roger, you can pick this up and continue the conversation, but is he even really separating himself? Because a lot of the people who wrote this document were in his cabinet.
Right. And so that's yet another, add that to the 30,000 lies that were documented by the Washington Post during his first term. It lies in the statements. This is no less than an attack on the working class, non-whites, any folks who are not well connected. Be very clear. Anytime anyone in this country says that they want there to be less stature or power within the federal government, that means a large swath of this country is on its own. Anytime somebody says that they want to get rid of the Department of Education, be very clear, they do not want universal K-12 education. It's one of the key drivers of advancement in this country. Black people, anytime somebody says they want to get rid of Head Start, be very clear that low-income blacks are going to be affected disproportionately, and I would assume Latinos as well. If I can be so blunt, in reading much of this screed, it felt like a conservative wet dream. They want to defund many portions of the federal government. They want to imbue more power into the president, who already has a lot of power, and with some of the recent rulings in the Supreme Court, can have even more. This is for insiders, people who are wealthy, people who don't need any extra help from state and federal government particularly. All the rest of you, you're on your own. That it cannot be said any more clearly than that. It is a disdain for people who are out of power and who are not rich. And the fact that the Heritage Foundation would lead a project of like this and be so public in putting out the document tells you where they think the country is right now. Mm-hmm. They are very fine with letting everybody know we really don't want you if you are on the bottom of the ladder or even in the middle of the ladder. Why don't you just die?
Yeah. Why don't you just go away?
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you too, because I know that you do a lot of work with religious organizations and within the Christian community and so forth. And this whole idea of the conservative side saying, you know, this is a Christian country. This is, you know, we are right. We are the ones. I mean, their actions don't seem to coincide with what Jesus would do, if you will, or what Christianity is supposed to be about. I'm just curious about how you look at how they can reconcile their faith with the way that they're treating others or want to treat others.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent question, an excellent point, and it's that Christianity, just like other faiths, are not monolithic, and that's why you have so many different denominations. There's been a lot of these splits and different ways of interpreting Scripture and interpreting faith and interpreting how that plays out in country. So there are a lot of Christians who do not adhere to the conservative approach to the Bible as defined by those who would say that the Republican Party is the Christian party. There are plenty of Christians in this country and around the world who are offended by that. And I think that a lot of it is just who is loudest, who uses the political apparatus to advance their agenda the most. But there are plenty of Christians in this country, across the country, who are operating in a way that's quite different.
So let's talk in particular the Black community. Are we paying attention?
I don't think we are.
You don't think so?
I don't think that we are giving enough oomph. It seemed like when you see the evil and you see the problem like we did in 2020, I think that got a lot of our attention. I'm not sure that there's that, I don't sense that same level of commitment this year. And I don't think that the Democratic Party also has done a very good job of touting some of its achievements during the last 4 years. I think it's been slow to. There was a story today, Michelle pointed it out to me, about how the IRS has gone after wealthier tax cheats and has done such a good job in going after some of them. And now they're going to go after some who didn't even either, return tax forms before or pay with their fair share. So, I mean, those are the types of things I think the party and the White House, frankly, should be doing a better job. And they're not doing that. So I don't think that there is the same urgency this time around. And frankly, it's not just the Democrats. It's the Republican Party for letting this man get a third bite at the apple. It's ridiculous.
Carol, you think that the Black community is paying attention?
I want to say yes, but unfortunately I can't. There used to be, by this time, a big momentum. I get calls and emails and can I come to campus to talk? Let me work with the students, I have heard nothing. And the good news for me is that it just challenges me to work further because, as I told you before we started, I will be the campus director for the NAACP, and I've already gotten an outline of how we're going to. But the unfortunate thing is that there may be some limitations on my plans because our state government and our governor has crafted what you can do, what you can't do, how. I'm not really
Well, I mean, but you deal with college students. Those are our younger voters. Are they? I mean, are they engaged? Are they going to show up at the polls? Is that going to be a push of yours? A lot of them
now. That's going to be a push of mine, and that's where I'm going to start in terms of the political science department and talking to our new dean and all of that. But frankly, I have not seen the energy that I usually see on campus by this time. By this time, even in the summers, they would have forums. They would have speakers. They would go to churches. They would do. I'm seeing nothing. And several students just say, "Oh, I don't really care." And I was like, "Yes, you do care. You've got to care."
Yeah.
And
what about you, Will? Are we paying attention?
I think people are paying attention. I just think it's playing out differently, with the impact of social media, the impact of, just what's going on in people's lives and generally. So, like, the normal places that you might look to see if people are engaged, like, the old newspaper that Roger and I used to work on. Work with, you can't really look there anymore.
And nor would you want to.
Level of engagement. You know what I mean? So I think that people are paying attention, and I think that once we get closer and closer to the election, it's going to be incumbent on, as the campaign say, the ground game, to really get out and get in front of people to inspire them to come out and vote. I mean, just like, again, to recount what I recall when I covered the Obama election, I mean, they had a ground game where people were really coming out and knocking on people's doors and making sure, and that kind of energy is what's going to be needed. Now, whether Joe Biden is the kind of candidate that can get people energized and what that Obama did remains to be seen. But that's where the strategists have to come up with a different game plan, for example, to talk about how important it is for whatever party wins to gain both houses and the executive branch. That's what that's a little different than some generations past, when you could get more bipartisan cooperation. So they need to have a message that's going to resonate with the voters. Like, for example, the whole student loan issue. That would get a lot of
abortion
that's
too.
True.
Yeah, and the
abortion too.
Yeah, they got it. Yeah, that's what they have to do. They have to message. And as has been pointed out here, the Democrats have been terrible at messaging, and the Republicans are tweaking their message. That's why I think this moving away from the Project 2025, even though it's not a real move away, the impression that the moving away is part of their strategy.
It says something that one of the most influential countries in the world has a 78-year-old who's a convicted felon as one standard there, and an 81-year-old who, his cognitive abilities are being questioned. It is just amazing to me that we're in this place. And I think countries like Russia, China, Iran, and others are just laughing. And, this could be a time when somebody tries to take advantage of the discord that's going on in the country. And that's why I think it's a potentially dangerous time for us as a nation. And our allies are probably trying to figure out what the heck is going on with us.
Go ahead.
Did you all ever think you would hear in a presidential debate in the United States, "No, I didn't have sex with a porn star"? Did you ever?
It's just crazy.
Yeah, such a thing. I'm like, wow, this is where we're at.
Yeah, really?
Really, America? Come on, America.
Come on.
Really?
Oh, my goodness. All right, I want to move on to one other topic. I'm trying to get these last two topics in the last 10 minutes that we have left in this show. So University of Virginia came out with the phonological awareness literacy screening. It's called PALS. And basically it looks at kindergarten, first grade, and second grade reading levels. And as you might imagine, they broke it down by race. And the only area in which Black students are doing better than the norm is kindergarten in terms of reading. First and second grade are below average. For brown children, Hispanic children, all three areas are in the negative. That meaning that they are not at grade level, that they are, and the lower you are, the harder it is to catch up in terms of reading. Why aren't our black folks reading? Carol, is that something that you see on campus? Is the reading level? Yeah.
Because actually, I'm very proud to say that in a lot of my classes, when I come in the morning, they'll say, "Oh, Pretlow, have you seen such and such? Or did you see the headlines from the New York Times?" So I see them engaged. But what I do see, and I haven't taught freshmen except for last year, I would come to class and ask them, and that's how I start the class in American government. Okay, what's up? Tell me what's happening. And very few were interested. They were like, "Well, where's that in the textbook?" I'm like, "Okay, let's get this straight. Let's do." By the end of the semester, I was able to make them see how they could filter what they had learned on their texting and their phones and all, and incorporate it into the textbook. But by and large, they come freshman year in college and they're not interested too much in reading.
Well, but this is even beyond interest. This is the ability to be able to read. Roger, what are your thoughts? This is the ability.
And Carol, I think partly, I mean, you have a subset that has gotten to college.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Think about the people who have not gotten to college or who dropped out or who only have a high school education. We know from research, from anecdotes, how important it is to read to our children from the earliest of ages. And, blessed, my wife and I did that. Our children were able to all graduate their undergraduate degrees with summa cum laude. I am very proud of that. But we also know that not every family has those advantages, understands the importance, really from a young age, how important it is to read to them. I used to mimic some of the characters in the books so that they would become engaged. There has to be a better sense of doing certain things in our churches, even before you get to daycare, of how important reading is.
My husband, when our nephew was born, started right from the beginning sending books. That was the gift from us, from Christmas, during the holidays and so forth, because it's so important.
Wonderful.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I just want to make one other point is that a son of one of my former coworkers, Tyler Watson, he is a barber in Chesapeake, and what he has started doing is asking people, bring in books you're not reading anymore. I'm going to have basically a library in the barbershop where young people could come in, or anybody, and just take a book, read it, and absorb it. He's trying to do another, maybe a non-traditional way of telling, young people, this is how important this is. And I want you to be able to, come to the shop and not just get a haircut, but also some knowledge. I think it's a beautiful thing.
I love that.
Two barbers in downtown Norfolk do that. One is on Granby Street. I forgot the name. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
And then the Horton's Barber Shop on Church Street. And I take books there and talk to kids.
All right, real quick, because we only got 4 minutes left. And Will, I'm going to start with you on this one. Is Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese really the WNBA's Magic versus Larry Bird?
Yeah, I mean, from a marketing standpoint, they're playing that card from a marketing standpoint. But the dislike between each other, that's not real. That's not real. They don't dislike each other.
Go ahead, Roger.
I don't think that they do either. I think it's more media depictions that are going on. Yeah. Let's say it. One of them's white, one of them's black. And so that's being played off each other. I think the best basketball player perhaps of all time is white. And I'm blanking on her name now, the UConn grad who's won so much, who won so much while at UConn and then has won several gold medals, and championships. Mm-hmm. So Diana Taurasi.
Mm-hmm.
So
man, the best is Asia. Asia, the GOAT, is playing right now. Asia,
you're showing you're showing how young you are. You didn't mention Cheryl Miller. You didn't mention Suther Cooper. You're just sad. It's just sad, Will. Be quiet and get some knowledge here.
Okay, all right. So here's the question: which one should be Rookie of the Year, Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese?
Oh, I think they're going to give it to Caitlin Clark. Both of them have had great seasons, but I think Clark's going to get it. Not and is there racial? Sure, but also Caitlin Clark has brought a lot of eyeballs to the game.
Well, so is Angel, don't you think?
Not in the
same way.
Homegirl.
That's my homegirl you're talking about.
I don't care what she is. I'm telling you that last year the WNBA did not have anywhere near the following that it does this year, and that's the Caitlin Clark effect. And I think a lot of writers sports writers and the like are going to give her the nod.
What do you think, Will?
Well, I think who should get it or who's going to get it.
Well, both.
I think the way it could go down to whose stats and who has had most of the impact on their team. So at this point, I don't know exactly what's happening with both of their stats, but I know Angel has been breaking records in terms of double-doubles and all of that. So
Caitlin Clark got the first triple-double, I think, from a rookie ever in the WNBA just a few days ago.
Right, from a rookie, first triple. And Angel's been on a double-double.
Right.
like from the jump, like from the beginning. So
I'm not arguing. I'm just saying that's what the facts are.
You guys.
Yeah, but I like Caitlin. I like them both. They're both assassins that haven't played ball. They're both
good.
And they're both competitive, and they both talk junk on the court, but they say once the game is over, then they can go out and hang out and they're fine.
Absolutely.
So let's dispel that. Guys, we're out of time. Can you believe that? I know. Thank you so very, very much for joining us. And we will have you guys back again real soon. Before I let you go, audience, I want to tell you about the Hampton Storytelling Festival 2024. It is happening July 19, 20, and 21, which is next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The storytellers are Sarah Brady, Dylan Pritchett, Valerie Davis, Andy Offit-Irwin, Via Good, Ray Christian, and Jay Johnson. And Jay has been on our show several times telling stories along with Sheila Arnold, and they are just fabulous. So there are several events going on. Go to hamptonstorytelling.art. hamptonstorytelling.art. All locations are in Hampton. They're holding them at a variety of places. Immaculate Conception Catholic Church, First Baptist Church Hampton, and on East Mellon Street at the VFW post. There are all kinds of stories going on. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope that you've enjoyed this edition of Another View. Next week, African-American philanthropy and historically black colleges and universities. Our theme music is an original composition created especially for Another View by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Jordan Christie is our audio engineer, and Dr. Barry Graham answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Thanks so much for listening, and let's get together again next Thursday at noon for Another View.
Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, carrying out your charitable wishes forever, whether it's helping shelter animals, feeding the homeless, enhancing the arts, or supporting students. Learn more at leaveabequest.org.